Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made her entrance onto the Newsmax stage with a confident stride. Adorned in a designer ensemble estimated to value more than the monthly housing costs of many average citizens, appearing prepared to lecture a billionaire regarding the nuances of economic inequality. Donald Trump took a moment to observe the former bartender turned congresswoman, who arguably had never signed a payroll check in her life, and offered a knowing smile. He had constructed an empire that employed 22,000 individuals, whereas she had driven 25,000 Amazon jobs out of New York and claimed it as a triumph. This encounter promised to be entertaining, as Newsmax had organized what they billed as the ultimate clash between capitalism and socialism, a debate America desperately needed, featuring a direct confrontation between Donald Trump, the embodiment of American free market capitalism, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the fresh face of democratic socialism. The network understood this pairing would be ratings gold, pitting the billionaire developer against the young progressive star, the man who erected towers in Manhattan versus the woman who believed tax incentives were liquid funds to be spent elsewhere. AOC had agreed to the terms because she believed her social media acumen, her quick retorts perfected on Twitter, and her appeal to younger voters would shield her. Having been the darling of progressive media for 3 years and celebrated for her viral moments, she assumed she could utilize the same tactics that succeeded on Instagram in a formal debate with Trump. She arrived with memorized talking points regarding billionaire greed, worker exploitation, and the moral arguments for democratic socialism. Yet she had absolutely no conception of what Trump had been preparing. For 2 weeks, Trump had been collaborating with economists, business leaders, veteran executives from his enterprises, and researchers to compile a comprehensive case against socialism and AOC specifically. This was not merely about attacking her, but about defending capitalism with evidentiary support that would resonate with regular Americans weary of being lectured on inequality by individuals who had never created a job. His team had assembled every necessary component, including complete documentation of the Amazon HQ2 proposal with specific job numbers, salary figures, and economic impact projections, alongside detailed cost analyses of the Green New Deal from multiple economic think tanks that all arrived at similarly astronomical figures. They had gathered video footage from Venezuela depicting empty shelves, citizens foraging through refuse, and protests against the socialist government that AOC had previously praised, as well as financial records illuminating her luxury lifestyle, including her Navy Yard apartment lease and photos from social media displaying designer clothing. The preparation included images of her Met Gala attendance photographed from every angle, her own tweets and statements regarding economics that contradicted fundamental principles, and congressional records highlighting her lack of legislative accomplishments despite 3 years in office and constant media attention. However, Trump had also prepared something far more potent, his own track record, presenting not theoretical arguments about capitalism, but tangible results, including photographs of buildings he had constructed, employment records, verifying the 22,000 people on his payroll, and tax documents showing billions paid to the government over decades. The dossier included contracts with suppliers demonstrating generated economic activity, before and after photos of Manhattan properties he had developed, and testimonials from employees who had built careers within his companies. The contrast was destined to be devastating, pitting someone who had actually built things under capitalism against someone who had destroyed jobs while promoting socialism. It was a clash between someone who understood business through experience versus someone with a degree she seemingly did not comprehend. Someone who had created wealth versus someone who had only ever accepted a government salary while attacking wealth creation, a builder versus a bartender, reality versus Instagram, and capitalism versus socialism. All of this material was organized in folders and prepared for display on the massive screens Newsmax would host in their studio, designed to prove the simple point that socialism is a fairy tale that invariably fails, and that its promoters lack an understanding of basic economics or real-world business. What transpired in the subsequent 90 minutes would compel a self-proclaimed economics expert to defend why she apparently did not understand how unemployment is calculated, why she eliminated 25,000 jobs and celebrated the act, and why every nation that attempted her ideas ended up with populations resorting to consuming zoo animals. If one has ever wished to witness what occurs when a creator of jobs debates a destroyer of them, one needed only to wait until Trump revealed the photos of her Met Gala appearance at Minute 28, for the expression on her face was priceless. The Newsmax studio in New York was filled to capacity with 500 attendees, constituting the network's largest audience for any program. The crowd was overwhelmingly pro-Trump, with MAGA hats visible everywhere, alongside a small but vocal section of young AOC supporters in the corner, wearing Green New Deal shirts and appearing nervous in such deeply hostile territory. The energy was electric, aggressive, and primed for confrontation, with a stage design that screamed combat, two podiums facing each other at sharp angles, massive screens ready to display evidence, and Greg Kelly at the moderator's desk, appearing as though he knew he was about to moderate either the greatest debate or the greatest destruction in cable news history. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez walked out first to cheers from her small section and immediate boos from the Trump crowd. At 34 years old, she wore what fashion websites would later identify as a designer outfit worth approximately $3,400, a fact Trump's team had already documented and prepared to utilize. She appeared confident, carrying herself with the self-assurance of someone whose every tweet received hundreds of thousands of likes, and who had her talking points about the evils of capitalism memorized and ready. She believed her youth, social media skills, and progressive credentials would make her appear fresh and modern compared to Trump. But she was about to learn why Twitter likes do not translate to real-world economic knowledge. Donald Trump walked out 2 minutes later to a roar that shook the building, with applause lasting over 3 minutes and chants of his name mixed with patriotic slogans, requiring Greg Kelly to repeatedly request quiet. Trump wore his signature dark suit and red tie, waving to the crowd with characteristic gestures, and walked to his podium, carrying something AOC immediately noticed. Multiple thick folders which he set down with deliberate heaviness, ensuring the audible thud was heard, causing her confident smile to flicker. Trump, with prepared materials, was never a good sign for opponents. Greg Kelly opened with standard moderator language regarding respectful debate and focusing on substance, which lasted about 40 seconds before inviting Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to give her opening statement. AOC launched into her prepared remarks in that distinctive voice famous from her viral videos, thanking Greg and stating that capitalism is a system that exploits workers and concentrates wealth in the hands of billionaires like Mr. Trump, while leaving working families behind. She argued for democratic socialism, a system where everyone has health care, education, housing, and dignity, and where billionaires pay their fair share while workers, not corporations, come first. She turned to face Trump with practiced confidence, declaring that he represented everything wrong with American capitalism, greed, inequality, and exploitation, asserting he had made billions while working people struggled, making him the problem rather than the solution. Her supporters applauded enthusiastically as she sat back, thinking she had landed a strong opening, while Trump looked at her with an expression somewhere between amusement and pity. When he spoke, his Queen's accent was thick with sarcasm, as he asked if he could call her Alexandria or if she preferred Sandy, causing the audience to laugh, while AOC bristled at the use of her childhood nickname. Trump continued, proposing they talk about jobs, real jobs, the thing she had never created but had destroyed, starting with Amazon. And he pulled out his first folder before she could respond. When a bartender lectures a billionaire about job creation, one must bring receipts regarding the jobs she eliminated. Trump did not wait for permission and was already displaying documents on the massive screens. He reminded her that Amazon wanted to build their second headquarters in her district of Queens, asking if she remembered this. When AOC tried to control the narrative by claiming Amazon wanted to exploit, Trump interrupted, insisting they look at the actual facts rather than socialist theory. Trump displayed Amazon's proposal on the screens. Amazon HQ, 2 New York City proposal, 25,000 jobs, average salary, $150,000, total investment, $2.5 billion. Economic impact, $27 billion over 10 years. Tax incentives, $3 billion over 10 years. He emphasized the 25,000 high-paying tech jobs with an average salary of $150,000, asking her if she knew how many people would love to make that amount, then turned to the audience, asking who would like to earn $150,000 a year, prompting hundreds of hands to shoot up amidst laughter and applause. He accused her of chasing Amazon away, leading the opposition, and killing the deal, meaning 25,000 jobs were gone because of her. When AOC tried her prepared response that those tax breaks were corporate welfare that could have been spent on other things, Trump's voice boomed through the studio, stopping her right there to point out that sentence proved she did not understand basic economics, despite her expensive degree. He walked toward center stage, animated now, explaining that tax breaks are not money one spends, but money one does not collect, asking if she understood the difference. As AOC looked flustered, asserting the $3 billion could have been used elsewhere, Trump countered that without Amazon, the city gets zero, not $3 billion to spend, but nothing. Trump then pulled out a prop, a comically oversized calculator that garnered laughs from the audience, and offered to do the math for her since she seemed confused. $27 billion in economic impact, minus $3 billion in tax incentives equals $24 billion that New York would have made. But because of her, they received zero, effectively turning $24 billion into nothing. The audience erupted in applause, but Trump was not finished. He noted that when Amazon left, she celebrated and called it a victory, costing 25,000 families jobs, paying $150,000 a year. He displayed AOC's tweet celebrating Amazon's departure, where she claimed everyday New Yorkers defeated Amazon's corporate greed, to which Trump retorted that she had actually defeated jobs, opportunity, and $24 billion. He pulled out more evidence, pointing out that she has a degree in economics from Boston University, a school costing about $60,000 a year, meaning her parents likely spent $250,000 on her education, yet she did not understand the difference between tax incentives and government spending. He turned to the audience with exaggerated disbelief, noting this is who wants to run America's economy. Someone who thinks tax breaks are cash one can spend and who cost her own city 25,000 jobs and called it a victory. When AOC tried to defend herself by claiming the jobs would have been exploitative, Trump exploded, stating that they were going to pay $150,000 a year, and that most people would love to be exploited at that salary. He pointed at her directly, contrasting that he had created thousands of jobs, built towers, employed people, and created wealth, asking what she had done other than kill 25,000 jobs, labeling her a job destroyer, who had no business lecturing him about economics. His final line on the topic was delivered with maximum contempt, calling her a bartender who does not understand business, who mixed drinks but never met a payroll or built anything, and who killed the one chance to bring jobs to her district, declaring that this was not democratic socialism but economic ignorance. Trump then grabbed his second folder, noticeably thicker, to discuss her Green New Deal, her grand plan to save the planet and transform the economy. He pulled out his oversized calculator again to laughter, warning that this would require math, and noting that nothing says, "I haven't thought this through," like a plan costing more than the world GDP. When AOC tried to assert that the Green New Deal would create millions of clean energy jobs, Trump shouted over her to ask if she knew the cost. $93 trillion over 10 years, or $9.3 trillion per year. He pointed out that the entire GDP of the United States is about $25 trillion, meaning her plan would cost more than a third of everything America produces every year for a decade. To make it personal, he performed more calculator theatrics, dividing $93 trillion by 128 million households to arrive at $726,562 per household, asking the audience if they could afford that, because even as a billionaire, he found it expensive. The audience laughed and applauded as Trump displayed the number $726,562 per household on the screens in huge font, asking Alexandria simply how we pay for this. AOC tried her rehearsed answer about progressive taxation and making billionaires pay their fair share, but Trump interrupted to do the math. If the government took 100% of the wealth from every billionaire in America, it would only amount to about $5 trillion, leaving an $88 trillion deficit. When AOC fumbled and mentioned corporations, Trump countered that even taxing everyone making over $100,000 a year at 100% would not pay for the plan, meaning she would have to tax the middle class into poverty. He then pulled out the infamous Green New Deal, frequently asked questions that had been deleted, stating he wanted to discuss what was actually in the plan because it was even crazier than the cost. He displayed the deleted, frequently asked questions on the screens, highlighting sections about eliminating air travel and building trains across the ocean, asking how one gets to Hawaii, perhaps a train across the Pacific, which caused the audience to roar with laughter. He highlighted the section about farting cows, showing the exact quote where the document set a goal for net zero emissions because they were unsure if they could fully eliminate farting cows. Trump continued with obvious glee, noting her desire to provide economic security for all who are unwilling to work, looking at the audience in mock disbelief and asking how it is fair to pay people who do not want to work and how such an economy functions. He paced across the stage, building momentum, noting she compared this to World War II mobilization, but pointing out that World War II cost about $4 trillion in today's dollars, while her plan cost $93 trillion, making it 23 times more expensive than defeating Hitler and Imperial Japan combined. He turned back to AOC, reminding her that she deleted the frequently asked questions because people started asking basic questions about payment and cow farts, causing her embarrassment. When AOC tried to defend it as a draft, Trump emphasized it was her big idea, and when exposed as insane, she pretended it never existed. His voice rose to a crescendo, listing the $726,000 per household cost, the elimination of airplanes, the concern over cow farts, and payment for those unwilling to work, holding up the calculator to declare, this was not policy, but a bartender's napkin dream after too many drinks. His final assessment was brutal, noting the Green New Deal received 0 votes in the Senate. Not even Democrats voted for it because her own party deemed it crazy. Trump then moved to his next prepared attack without giving AOC time to recover, bringing up her "Tax the Rich" slogan and pulling out a photo that made her visibly uncomfortable. He displayed the image of AOC at the Met Gala in September 2021, wearing her white "Tax the Rich" dress on the red carpet. Noting the irony of the statement, he paused for effect before revealing the ticket price to attend. The Met Gala was $35,000, causing the audience to gasp and boo. He emphasized that $35,000 for one party is more than half of what the median American family earns in a year. Trump walked around his podium, asking if she did not see the irony or understand how out of touch it was for her to attend $35,000 parties in designer dresses, attacking the rich, while regular Americans struggled to pay rent. When AOC tried to claim she was invited to make a statement, Trump retorted that the statement she made was that she is a hypocrite. He pulled out more evidence of her luxury lifestyle, displaying records of her Navy Yard apartment in Washington, D.C. With rent of $2,700 per month, $32,400 a year, designer Manolo Blahnik shoes costing $580, a designer outfit worth $3,400, and a Tesla costing approximately $50,000, all while on a salary of $174,000 a year. Trump turned to the audience, noting she makes $174,000, yet complained it was not enough to live on, despite it being 2.5 times the median household income of $70,000. He pointed at her, observing that she lectures people about inequality while living in a luxury apartment, driving a Tesla, wearing expensive shoes, and attending elite parties. Trump walked toward her podium, admitting he is rich and built towers and businesses, but noting he does not pretend to be something he is not, whereas she attacks the rich while living like them, branding it champagne socialism. He then revealed a map on the screens to discuss her background, challenging her brand of being a girl from the Bronx by showing she is actually from Yorktown Heights in Westchester County, one of the wealthiest areas in America. Photos appeared of suburban homes and nice neighborhoods, with a median home value of $450,000, and Trump noted her father was an architect, and she attended Boston University with $60,000 annual tuition, placing her family in the comfortable upper middle class. He turned to her with mock sympathy, stating, "There is nothing wrong with that," but accusing her of pretending to be working class and manufacturing the girl from the Bronx story because it plays well politically, calling it fake. When AOC tried to respond that her family moved when she was young, Trump insisted she grew up in wealthy Westchester and went to expensive schools, accusing her of not being working class but simply good at branding. His final assault in this round was devastating, acknowledging that bartending after college is honest work, but arguing she acts as if she were barely surviving, when in reality, she had a degree from an expensive university and chose to bartend, which he labeled as privilege rather than struggle. He summarized that she attends $35,000, parties in protest dresses, lives in a luxury apartment, drives a Tesla, wears expensive shoes, complains about a $174,000 salary, and pretends to be from the Bronx when she is from wealthy Westchester, concluding she is not representing working people but pretending to be them while living like the elite. His final line was delivered with contempt, stating that her persona is not authentic but a brand and a fraud. Trump then grabbed another folder with photos attached to discuss real socialism and countries that actually tried her ideas, pulling out images that made the audience grimace. He displayed horrific images from Venezuela showing empty grocery stores, people digging through trash, and protesters being beaten. identifying this as the result of the socialism AOC wants to bring to America. He showed photos of people eating zoo animals due to lack of food and empty grocery shelves, asserting this is what socialism did to Venezuela, once the richest country in South America. When AOC tried to interrupt, Trump shouted over her that Venezuela nationalized industries took from the rich and promised free everything, which sounded familiar, before displaying economic data showing 1,000,000% inflation, a 75% GDP collapse, a 96% poverty rate, and 7 million refugees. He read AOC's own old tweets praising Venezuela's policies and saying they were doing great things for workers, noting this was before they started eating zoo animals, which prompted loud boos from the audience. Trump moved to other examples. Cuba, where people flee on rafts, risking death to escape. The USSR, which collapsed. North Korea, where people are starving. And China, which had to adopt capitalism to survive. He challenged AOC to name one socialist country that succeeded long-term. When she mentioned Nordic countries, Trump interrupted to cite the Prime Minister of Denmark, stating they are not socialist, but capitalist with social programs and lower corporate taxes than the U.S. Trump paced, voice rising, noting that every time socialism fails, proponents claim it wasn't real socialism, yet it never works. He drew comparisons. Capitalism made America the richest nation in history and lifted billions from poverty, while socialism resulted in zoo animals for dinner and refugees. He walked toward AOC's podium, accusing her of wanting Americans to abandon what works for what always fails, shaking his head in disgust as he cited his global business experience, seeing capitalism work and socialism fail. His final line was delivered with genuine anger, calling socialism a fairy tale for people who do not understand economics or history, stating she wants to destroy America with ideas that turned Venezuela into a place where people eat zoo animals. Trump then pulled out a folder marked Education to discuss her economics degree, displaying her diploma information from Boston University and noting the $250,000 cost. He played a video clip from July 2018 where AOC stated unemployment is low because everyone has 2 jobs and people are working 60 to 80 hours a week. Trump paused the video and asked the audience if that made sense, asking if having 2 jobs counts as 2 employed people. The audience shouted back, "No." He explained that unemployment is the percentage of people without jobs, and having 2 jobs counts as 1 employed person, telling AOC she has an economics degree yet does not understand how unemployment is calculated. When AOC tried to defend her broader point, Trump countered that if the basic math is wrong, the point is wrong, and proceeded to test her knowledge with quiz questions about unemployment calculation, to which she answered correctly, proving her previous statement was false. He continued to grill her on tax incentives, pointing out that her Amazon argument was flawed because incentives are revenue foregone, not spending. He listed her other errors, suggesting printing money to pay for programs, causing inflation, saying billionaires shouldn't exist, they employ millions, and misunderstanding unemployment. He reiterated that after Boston University she bartended, which is honest work, but she never ran a business, met payroll, or created a job, highlighting that her experience is mixing drinks, while he has employed 22,000 people and dealt with real business complexities. His assessment was that she has a $250,000 education, but does not understand basic business concepts, calling her confidence delusion, and stating she wants to run a $25 trillion economy without having ever signed a paycheck. Finally, Trump grabbed a noticeably thin folder to review her record in Congress, opening it dramatically to reveal it was completely empty. He pretended to read from the empty folder. Zero major legislation passed. Zero bills signed into law. 25,000 jobs lost. And zero committee leadership, jokingly adding, she has 13 million Twitter followers. He showed that the Green New Deal received 0 votes in the Senate and listed her failed initiatives: killing Amazon jobs, opposing immigration reform without solutions, and complaining about health care without passing anything. He asserted that in 3 years she had not passed a single significant piece of legislation or solved any problems. When AOC claimed to have raised awareness, Trump exploded, calling that influencing, not governing, pointing out she is an influencer with a government job who is good at TikTok but has done nothing in legislation. He contrasted this with his record of building towers and creating economic activity, asking what she has built, other than a Twitter following. He then brought up her grandmother in Puerto Rico, showing AOC's tweets, using her grandmother's suffering to attack him, and then revealing that conservatives raised $14,153 to help fix the home, which AOC's office rejected because it came from conservatives. The audience booed as Trump expressed disgust that she put her political brand ahead of her family, using her grandmother for points but refusing actual help. He summarized her record: 3 years, 0 legislation, 25,000 jobs lost, and rejecting help for her grandmother, concluding she is an influencer, not a congresswoman. As Greg Kelly tried to move to closing statements, Trump stood up and walked to center stage. He compared her desire for socialism with his record of building under capitalism, listing his towers, hotels, and golf courses, and the 22,000 people he employed. He pointed to the audience, declaring that capitalism is creating value and building, whereas she has negative job creation and a $93 trillion fantasy. He walked across the stage, describing socialism as destroying, taking, and complaining, while contrasting his creation of billions with her attacks on wealth. He ticked off points. Capitalism built America and lifted billions from poverty, while socialism made Venezuela eat zoo animals and created poverty. Capitalism gave choices and freedom, while socialism gave empty shelves and oppression. He walked toward AOC, labeling her a bartender with an economics degree she doesn't understand, who killed jobs, lives like the rich while attacking them, and has 0 accomplishments. Trump's voice rose to a crescendo as he stated, America has a choice between capitalism with its innovation and wealth creation, or socialism with its failure and poverty, spreading his arms to say he chooses the system under which he built an empire. He pointed at AOC one final time, warning not to let her destroy what works with what always fails. The audience erupted into a standing ovation lasting over 5 minutes, chanting his name and capitalism works, while AOC sat unable to effectively respond to the comprehensive destruction backed by evidence she could not deny. The video of the debate exploded across platforms, garnering 167 million views in a week, with terms like killed 25,000 jobs and bartender economics becoming trending topics and memes. Conservative media celebrated, with Fox News playing the debate repeatedly, and hosts like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson dedicating segments to analyzing Trump's dismantling of socialism. Newsmax aired a documentary special that became their highest-rated program, and conservative podcasters amplified the impact. However, the real story was the debate's penetration into mainstream consciousness, where young voters and liberals were forced to confront the verifiable facts Trump presented regarding Amazon, the Green New Deal costs, and Venezuela. TikTok and Instagram filled with videos of young people verifying the data, and focus groups showed dramatic shifts in attitudes, with support for democratic socialism and the Green New Deal dropping significantly among voters under 30. New Yorkers who lost the Amazon jobs felt vindicated, and local politicians began criticizing AOC. Even moderate Democrats distanced themselves from the toxic Green New Deal and its costs. AOC's champagne socialist lifestyle became a major vulnerability, with the Met Gala photo and her Tesla becoming shorthand for hypocrisy, while the Venezuela comparison destroyed her economic credibility. Her lack of legislative accomplishments and the story about her grandmother damaged her standing further, leading to a primary challenge from a moderate Democrat whose campaign focused entirely on the debate's revelations. The challenger raised massive funds and polled competitively, while Democratic leadership, including Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, distanced themselves from AOC, viewing her as a liability who could not govern. Trump enjoyed a surge in economic approval ratings to 54%, his highest ever, as the job creator versus job killer framing resonated with voters. 1 year later, AOC's influence had significantly waned. Her legislation went nowhere, and the party treated her as an exposed influencer. The debate fundamentally shifted views on socialism, moving it from a trendy idea to one associated with economic failure and eating zoo animals, proving to be a confrontation between reality and fantasy, where Trump systematically dismantled the socialist argument with undeniable receipts. The choice Trump laid out, build or destroy, capitalism or socialism, became a defining lesson, illustrating why America became rich through building rather than the theories of bartender economics.